Hey everybody, Satoli here with History in Your Own Backyard. Today I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I'm headed towards a building called Longworth Hall. This building is pretty historic. It's a big building down by the riverfront. It was used back in the day as a shipping warehouse, and over the years it has become many things, including a bar and a dance hall at one time. We're going down and check it out today because part of the building is going to be demolished for a new bridge that they're building across the Ohio River. The one end of the building is in the way and they need to take it down. Not much of it, I think maybe 200 or 300 feet maybe. But anyway, 100 years from now, the bridge that they're going to build in a couple of years won't even be standing. That bridge will be replaced. So we're going to check this out and check the building out. We're going to get a little tour from the Ohio Department of Transportation. They're coming down to meet with me today. So stay tuned and we'll check it out. Hey everybody, Satoli here with History in Your Own Backyard. Today I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I'm with Jeffrey Jakucyk, and we're going to talk about the building right behind us, which is known as Longworth Hall to all the local people here. How you doing, Jeffrey?
Doing pretty good.
Good. It's a hot day here in Cincinnati.
As expected for middle of August.
Yeah, 91, 92 degrees today. So, the building behind us here, it was built in 1904, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
It was Baltimore and Ohio's warehouse for basically the entire city of Cincinnati.
Baltimore, Ohio Railroad.
Yes.
Okay.
They had a bunch of, the Baltimore and Ohio was, merged a bunch of local railroads in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. And so they had a whole bunch of different like freight houses scattered all around, mostly the west side of Cincinnati. And so this was a way to kind of bring it all under one roof, consolidate operations, improve efficiency, that sort of thing.
Okay. And before the building was even here, it was owned by a guy named Longworth, correct?
Yes, Nicholas Longworth. He was early resident of the city. I think he moved here in like 1804, so before the city was even a city, but not long after it was settled. He was a winemaker. He had vineyards in Mount Adams, had a lot of success at that, and also was an attorney and took a lot of payment in land gifts. So he accumulated a lot of property.
Is that how he got it?
Yes, and then over time he kind of wound down his winemaking interest and focused more on his real estate ventures.
Okay.
And so the property here was property that was owned by him and leased in perpetuity to the B&O, among other interests. That made him a very rich man. He was like one of the first philanthropists in the city, first millionaire, I think. His villa estate was what is now the Taft Art Museum.
Is it?
At Lytle Park. So his fingers are kind of all over the city.
Yeah.
And he also had some of his kids, grandkids were like Congress people and senators, stuff like that. So, yeah, definitely a very important person, important family to the city.
Right. And before the building was even constructed, what was here? Do you know?
Well, so we are very close to downtown, as you can see. I mean, the skyline is right behind us. I-75 is right behind us. But it's a very low-lying area. So we're near the river. We're on the floodplain. So this was never going to be kind of the like highest and best high rent part of the city. So this was always kind of an area that was geared towards like riverboat traffic, early industries, things like that. And as early as the 1840s, the Cincinnati and Whitewater Canal came through here. It was just on the other side of the parking lot here. And its terminal was just a few blocks towards downtown. So that was bringing in produce and grains, agricultural products from Indiana into the city. So it was already kind of growing up to be sort of a warehouse district, an industrial district. But also on the other side of the building, the early gas works to provide town gas for lighting and eventually cooking. There was a whole bunch of facilities over there with big tanks and processing facilities where they would heat coal like you would make for making coke, drive off the gases, collect them, and use them for lighting. But there were also tenements, and this was actually one of the more seedy and dangerous parts of the city.
Was it?
Yeah. Supposedly, and there's a tiny triangle of land bounded by Gas Alley and what is today Pete Rose Way and Mering Way. It had something like 40 tenement buildings in this tiny little area, and it was kind of almost the police don't even go there sort of a place. So, and then as the railroads came in more and more, there was more tracks, more industries, pollution, everything. But this kind of speaks to that warehousing and industrial legacy of the neighborhood.
So back to the building itself, it was built in 1904, and it was one of the largest buildings at the time, longest buildings?
Longest. It's when it was built, it was 1,277 feet long, which is just a hair under a quarter mile long. Right. It's only, I think, like 48, 50 feet wide.
Okay.
And 4 or 5 stories tall. It has a sister building, Camden Yards in Baltimore, which it's a little bit shorter, and and that's like 8 stories tall. So probably bigger in total square feet, but similar design, similar inspiration, and it was by the same architect. And
for the same railroad company, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the architect's name was Maurice Alvin Long. He was actually from Middletown, and moved to Cincinnati, and he designed the building for Baltimore and Ohio Railroad. And then that same year, 1904, he moved to Baltimore, essentially to become kind of their company architect. And he designed a number of buildings, but so you could definitely see, comparing Longworth Hall and Camden Yards, there's a lot of similarities there.
And the rail lines came in on this side of the building, is that right? And offload it?
Yeah, so there's a bunch of tracks that came in from the west, and this whole parking lot was all yard tracks, but they could line up pretty long trains right along the building here, unload into the building, stage everything here on the first floor, and load into wagons on the other side at the street.
They had openings for each of the...
You could basically just walk all the way through. And then the upper floors were used for storage, warehousing, that sort of thing. Any freight that was coming in from wagons, which often might even be coming from other railroads, because it was sometimes easier, even if there was another railroad nearby, which there certainly were. I mean, there was a Big Four warehouse just a block or two away. Louisville and Nashville had a warehouse a block up. The Chesapeake and Ohio warehouse was just on the other side of the viaduct here. It might actually have been easier to just put stuff on wagons and bring them across rather than to try to shuffle an individual car around the tangle of tracks. but they would bring the stuff here by wagon, store it, get it staged as necessary, and then they would take it over to this building that's left over here in the parking lot. That was the scale building.
Oh, was it?
So that's where they would weigh everything.
Okay.
And get it ready to load onto cars and send it to wherever it needed to go.
Those warehouses you were talking about, they're all gone, correct?
At this point, yeah, they're pretty much all gone. There were some others, like the Southern Railway had a warehouse kind of where the Banks is now. And there's still a few buildings remaining up like past Union Terminal along Spring Grove Avenue, but those were like later buildings that have managed to survive. Some of the earlier ones, yeah, they've all mostly gone by the wayside. I mean, even here, although the scale building remains, sort of, it also had a small roundhouse attached to the other side of it, but that's all gone. That was mostly used for maintaining locomotives, mostly passenger locomotives, because we were right near the location of Central Union Depot, which was not a full Union station, but several railroads used it for their passenger terminus. So all the B&O lines that were here, the Indianapolis and Cincinnati, the big Fort of Columbus, and so they all had passenger operations out of there. And so this was a convenient place to do a little bit of work on the passenger trains too.
And do you have any idea why the scale house still stands?
No idea. I mean, it's there, but it's it doesn't really have a roof anymore, and it's in pretty rough shape.
Yeah.
But the reason that it's kind of at an odd angle from everything else is more due to its being attached to that roundhouse.
Okay.
So there was a turntable there and everything.
Okay.
But mostly this was just a yard full of tracks, and for them to shuffle cars around.
And when was the last time B&O used this building?
Well, so by the time the building fell out of use, B&O was now Chessie System after merging with the Chesapeake and Ohio. But it was basically, I think by the 80s is when it had really been essentially abandoned. It was definitely still in use in the 60s when I-75 and the Brent Spence Bridge was built. At that time, they tore down a little bit of the far eastern end of the building, but then they built back an addition on the north side to sort of make up the space. So, but the 60s and 70s were bad times for a lot of railroads, and they were also generally not serving downtown areas as much, because a lot of especially the less than carload freight was moving to trucks.
Okay.
So they were just being shipped directly, or they could offload and transload stuff from bigger yards like Queensgate, a little farther out on the west side, or other places like that.
And that's why we're here today, obviously, is they're going to tear down about 230 feet of the east side of this building to get the new bridge in. In 100 years from now, that bridge won't even stand. They'll be
maybe not. Yeah,
they'll have another bridge, or who knows what they'll have going in.
But there's still going to be a fair bit left. I mean, there's still a ton of building here. Even there's a little bit. There's one section of the top floor right above us that's missing due to a fire at some point that they just took it out and never put it back. But yeah, I mean, this is still a sizable structure.
It's massive. So going back to the canal, what's there now? So
the Cincinnati and Whitewater Canal only lasted as a going concern for like 10 or 15 years. It didn't have the longevity of the Miami and Erie Canal. It was just too hard to maintain, too many locks, that sort of thing. So as it was falling out of use in the 1850s and by the 1860s, the Indianapolis and Cincinnati Railroad bought most of it and built their tracks either on the towpath or in the canal bed itself. And as far as I understand, closer to the city here, they built in the canal bed itself.
Did they?
So what that did was that gave them sort of like almost a pre-made grade separation. So they could kind of run a little bit below the streets and not have to build as many, bridges or crossings. And so there's still a track here. It's the very end of what's called the ditch track, because it was built in a ditch, essentially.
Okay.
So first it was the Indianapolis and Cincinnati, then it became Big Four, and now it's owned by Indiana and Ohio under Genesee and Wyoming. And sometimes they still store like gondolas and other cars down here, because this was the lead-in to Central Union Depot.
Was it?
But as it is now, the tracks end just under the approach to the Brent Spence Bridge, so there's no customers down here, so it's really just a dead end. But yeah, sometimes you'll come down here and there might just be like one random flat car just sitting there chilling, or maybe a whole bunch of gondolas full of like pig iron or something like that.
Okay. So ODOT bought the building so they could demolish part of it to get this expressway through. But what happened since the 1980s up until the present day with this?
So after it fell out of use, it was documented for and listed on the National Register of Historic Places. And then it was essentially it was converted into offices and lofts. So like there was like interior design showrooms here, and other more officey type stuff like on the upper floors, although I don't know if it was ever like fully occupied. Actually, a general contractor friend of mine came in here at some point. That was probably in the 80s or 90s. He was charged with taking out some old like equipment and stuff to help prep it for new office use. And this whole area of downtown was where a lot of the city's produce warehouses were. So fresh fruits and vegetables and stuff like that. So there was a lot of early like chilled storage. And so when he was going in there to take out these pipes and stuff, and they were all still full of ammonia.
Were they?
They were for old school ammonia refrigeration for storage of produce. And they had just essentially just walked away from it and had left there, and nobody had been around to, drain out the system or anything. So it had been used in the intervening decades for that sort of stuff, but it kind of just sort of sitting here off of a lot of people's radars, and so now that ODOT has bought it, and with the intention that when the project is done, they'll then sell it to someone who wants to sort of reinvigorate it again. But and supposedly they're going to use some of the bricks and other details from the part they tear off to restore some other parts that have been lost, and that's not a bad trade-off, I guess, under the circumstances.
Yeah, for a building this old, to keep it going. Well, Jeffrey, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Anytime.
It's always a joy talking to you.
You too.
Everybody, we'll see you next time on History in Your Own Backyard. Have a great day. A series of bars and dance clubs have inhabited this end of Longworth Hall, including Eli's, the Energy Nightclub, and the Pulse Nightclub. When the last bar closed, it was like people just vanished from the room, but everything else remained. We found open beer bottles, liquor bottles, half-empty glasses. It was a very weird vibe.
Demolishing this part of the building. But that's yeah. There's also the preserving the building.
On the second floor, we found boxes of glasses, couches, tables, chairs, and condoms. I believe this was also used as a VIP lounge for the bar. On the third floor, we found new doors and frames, office chairs, and toilets, but probably the strangest thing we came across was a doll baby. Why is there a doll baby in a former office complex? The fourth floor was basically empty, while the fifth floor was also vacant office space. Here we are going from the fourth floor up to the fifth. And this is all going to be demolished. Everything you see here. This is the doorway leading to the roof. Will probably be one of the few people that ever get the chance to come up here. Here we are. So you can see we're right near I-75. See Price Hill, the old tower from the WSAI, although I don't know what that tower is for now. How cool is this? Oh God, it's probably been 8 years ago or so.